I'm Sharon Tazwell. Here's your Spectrum News in 90. Donald Trump's former attorney Michael Cohen testified Monday in the former president's ongoing hush money criminal trial in New York City. Cohen told jurors that Trump told him to move ahead with the payments to adult film actress Stormy Daniels. Prosecutors could wrap their case this week after telling the judge Friday that they expected to call just 2 more witnesses. Trump continues to deny any wrongdoing.
You know, the FEC wrote this off. They looked at this years ago, and they took a pass. They said there's no problem here.
Israeli forces wrapped up attacks in Gaza Monday as Palestinians attempt to flee Rafah ahead of Israel's planned invasion. More than 360,000 people have already left the southern city. That's according to the UN. Here in the U.S., the White House is urging Israel to come up with a post-war plan for Gaza, saying the country needs a clear end, which requires airlines to disclose fees for baggage and changing or canceling reservations. Well, the lawsuit alleges the new rule will confuse customers during the ticket buying process. The Transportation Department says it will defend the rule to crack down on, quote, hidden junk fees. Those are your headlines now. Here's a look at your weather on the ones.
A stormy start to the week for some in the Gulf. Hi there, I'm meteorologist Robert Santos. Those storms overnight will move into the southeast for Tuesday morning. An area of low pressure here will also bring some scattered showers into the northeast as we go throughout the day on Tuesday. Now, Tuesday will start off with temperatures like this in the northeast, upper 50s to low 60s during the day. Charlotte will be around the upper 60s as some of those storms come through. Still in the 70s for Boston and New York, and hot out west with some 90s in Vegas.
All eyes on Manhattan. Thanks for joining us. I'm Sharon Tazwell. Star witness Michael Cohen took the stand Monday in Donald Trump's hush money trial. The highly anticipated testimony from Trump's former lawyer and personal fixer follows weeks of buildup by prosecutors on a case that ultimately hinges on record keeping. Spectrum's Dan Rivoli is outside the courtroom with the major takeaways from Cohen's testimony.
Michael Cohen is a key witness, and he's already testified to lying to a bank. Lying is part of his job working for Donald Trump, and the defense is sure to bring up that he's pleaded guilty to lying to Congress. And yet, for prosecutors, Michael Cohen is the key for the jury to understand what Donald Trump was thinking when it came to that $130,000 hush money payment to adult film actress Stormy Daniels to bury her story about an alleged affair with Donald Trump. That infamous tape where Trump bragged about assaulting women. Then on the heels of that, Stormy Daniels was set to go public with her story of an affair with Donald Trump, and Cohen testified that he believed the allegations from Stormy Daniels were catastrophic and horrible for the campaign. Prosecutors also showed text messages Michael Cohen had sent to the National Enquirer's editor-in-chief, in which Michael Cohen described conversations with Donald Trump about Stormy Daniels' story and its impact on his presidential campaign. He said of Donald Trump, he wasn't thinking about Melania. This was all about the campaign. Meanwhile, Donald Trump was accompanied to court today by some of his political allies, Senators J.D. Vance of Ohio and Tommy Tuberville of Alabama, as well as New York City Congresswoman Nicole Malliotakis of Staten Island, the only Republican member of Congress from the city. Here's what she told us about the trial.
President, because we know he did nothing wrong, he did not commit a crime, and not just us, it's the Federal Elections Commission, it's the Department of Justice, it is the former District Attorney Cy Vance. Somehow Alvin Bragg is trying to make some type of connection here where there is none, and I think the people of the United States see it.
Meanwhile, Michael Cohen testified in great detail about how he personally made the hush money payment to Stormy Daniels using a home equity line of credit. Michael Cohen said he himself would never authorize such a payment because Donald Trump had to sign off on everything and he wanted his money back. Cohen also testified about how he discussed a repayment plan with Trump Organization Chief Financial Officer Alan Weisselberg and how they decided to disguise the reimbursement as payment for legal services and gross it up to cover any income tax Michael Cohen would have to pay. It was around this time that Donald Trump decided to give Michael Cohen the title of Spectrum News.
With less than 6 months of the 2024 general election, a new poll shows Donald Trump ahead of President Biden in 5 key battleground states. Trump continues to slam his hush money trial for keeping him off the campaign trail. Now, as for Biden, he is turning the focus of his campaign to Asian American Pacific Islanders. Spectrum's Evan Kozlov is in Washington with the latest on the race for the White House.
President Joe Biden was back in Washington on Monday, hosting a White House reception celebrating Asian American Pacific Islander Heritage Month, part of an outreach to a potentially significant voting bloc ahead of the fall election. As Vice President Kamala Harris, the first Asian American and African American vice president, used salty language at a summit earlier in the day.
Sometimes people will open the door for you and leave it open, sometimes they won't. And then you need to kick that door down.
The White House also kicking off
Infrastructure Decade.
Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre highlighting some 56,000 projects which she says have been paid for so far by the bipartisan infrastructure law passed in 2021.
If Trump was reelected, it would be devastating for women's health care.
And in the Midwest, new commercials in Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. As a Democrat group, American Bridge 21st Century is announcing a $25 million ad buy focused on abortion access.
There it is. It's Trump leading by a lot.
Meanwhile, former President Donald Trump is looking to highlight new polling from the New York Times and Siena College, showing that among likely voters, he's leading in 5 key battleground states as the presumptive Republican nominee blasts his ongoing hush-money trial in New York City.
I should be out campaigning now instead of sitting in a very cold courthouse all day long.
Now, former President Donald Trump plans to make multiple visits to the Midwest this week, including Ohio on Wednesday, fundraising dinner. Trump going on offense in a traditionally blue state. Minnesota hasn't gone for a Republican in a presidential election in over 50 years. In Washington, I'm Evan Kozlov, Spectrum News.
As hundreds of thousands of Palestinians flee Rafah ahead of Israel's anticipated invasion into the city, the Biden administration delivers its strongest rebuke of Israel since the start of the war. On Capitol Hill, House Republicans have scheduled a vote to highlight their opposition to the president withholding some offensive weapons to Israel. Daniel Grimes has the latest on the conflict in the Middle East.
We don't know what to do. We are going into the unknown.
The United Nations reports 360,000 people have fled the southern Gaza city of Rafah in the past week as Israel has begun a military offensive there. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu continues to threaten an all-out attack to neutralize Hamas.
Loss of life of innocent civilians. It's reasonable to assess, as we say in the report, that there are instances where they've acted inconsistent with their obligations under international humanitarian law.
President Joe Biden last week withheld the delivery of 3,500 bombs to Israel over concerns they would be used in Rafah, harming civilians there. On Sunday, Secretary of State Antony Blinken did not rule out withholding more offensive weapons if Israel proceeds with its ground offensive. But on Capitol Hill, the number 2 House Republican Majority Leader Steve Scalise says the chamber will vote this week on legislation to prevent the administration from withholding military aid to Israel. It's unlikely to become law, but Republicans want to put themselves on record as solidly behind Israel and expose fissures between Democrats who support and oppose the president withholding military aid.
There's been a lot of blowback for his recent public statement. And I'll remind you, other American presidents have done the same thing when a close, trusted partner is.
National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan says ceasefire talks are currently at a standstill, but urged Hamas to accept Israel's latest proposal and release the remaining hostages. He also said he will likely meet with Israeli officials to help with negotiations in a matter of days. In Washington, Daniel Grimes, Spectrum News.
A close call at a Louisiana church. Just ahead, how churchgoers stopped an armed teenager from entering the place of worship.
Spectrum News Plus. News from a new perspective, dedicated to refreshing storytelling and empowering communities across the nation. With balanced reporting, providing real context and in-depth in communities. We are Spectrum News Plus. Streaming now on the Spectrum News app and free with your Spectrum subscription.
At Spectrum, we know how much you depend on the reliability of our products and services. Now, we've taken a new step forward in reliability by identifying potential service issues before they become a problem. If you're affected, we'll contact you and help schedule a free service appointment with one of our expert technicians. The proactive maintenance of our network is one of the many reasons Spectrum delivers the most reliable internet speeds in the nation. Spectrum, keeping you connected.
When I never graduated from high school, I realized I wanted to go back to school because I didn't want to work these back-breaking jobs the rest of my life. With the help of my father and having my son, that was all the motivator challenges life throws at you.
Find free adult education classes near you at finishyourdiploma.org.
When I was in foster care, I never knew when I would have to move. So I always had my suitcase ready to go. Then one day I was adopted. My new parents opened their hearts and home to me. My parents cook my favorite breakfast for me every morning. My parents take me on trips I never thought I would go on. They gave me a home and an even better reason to use that suitcase. My parents aren't perfect, but they're perfect for me.
Robert Santos, and then eventually we're going to see that threat move into the southeast. So some of you will be waking up to a wet Tuesday morning. Let's take a look at the timing of this here around 1 o'clock Tuesday, then moving into around 7 o'clock. So across the Carolinas, places like Charleston, Charlotte, Wilmington. Fair game for any of these thunderstorms to come through, and the chance of even some flash flooding, as we could get some excessive rainfall out of that. And then eventually moving up into Virginia for Tuesday evening. And you can see some of the showers of thunderstorm chances moving across here. This is because of a slow moving frontal boundary across this area. Now, a little farther north, we've got an area of low pressure that will be bringing some showers and some thunderstorm chances into the northeast as we go into Tuesday evening. You can see it pretty widespread, but it is scattered. So it's not going to be everywhere. You could see some of that moving into Tuesday night, into Wednesday as well, into New England states. And then we'll be watching this Thursday morning come and enhance basically across Texas and Louisiana. It's going to change somewhat. We'll see a slight chance of that moving across into the southeast for our Tuesday, and then on Wednesday the threat at least will decrease. So here's a look at Syracuse, New York. We've got thunderstorm chances for you on Tuesday, but look at the big temperature swing. Come Wednesday, upper 60s, and then back up for the mid 70s there for Thursday. Cincinnati, Ohio, the best chances for any thunderstorms I'm calling for Tuesday and Wednesday with temperatures in the low 70s. Drier for you on Thursday with your temperature now at around 80 degrees. And in Charlotte, North Carolina, also a big warm up here from the upper 60s Tuesday with those showers to 80s come Wednesday and Thursday. Much drier for your Thursday. And for St. Louis, Missouri, we've got thunderstorm chances coming Tuesday and also Thursday. Drier on Wednesday, but those temperatures staying in the 70s there.
A close call at a Louisiana church after a teenage gunman interrupted a church service. It is a second close call involving an armed suspect in a church in the last week. Spectrum's Rob Wu shows us what happened and how a mass shooting may have been prevented. Now, we want to warn, some may find the video disturbing.
Frightening moments inside St. Mary Magdalene Church in Abbeville, Louisiana. Signs something was wrong as a man whispered something to the pastor mid-prayer. Then looks of concern and confusion as people leave their seats clutching their children. The clergy taking cover. Behind them, altar boys dart across the sanctuary as law enforcement officers sweep the church.
We did apprehend a young man. He is in the police custody. Calm down.
What those confronted someone who tried to get in through the back door. Police say it was a 16-year-old armed with a rifle.
I'm hurt. I'm angered.
That teen now charged with terrorizing and 2 counts of possession of a firearm by a juvenile.
This is a society problem, not a local problem.
It was just last week when a man walked into a church in Pennsylvania and attempted to shoot the pastor. When he pulled the trigger, the gun jammed and he was tackled by a church member. That pastor, Glenn Germany, delivered a sermon about his near-death experience over the weekend.
Didn't even see him coming until he was in front of me. Yes. The first thing I seen was just the gun. And if not be for the grace of God, he would have killed me.
I'm Rob Wu, Spectrum News.
A portion of the Francis Scott Key Bridge has now been demolished. All explosives were used to break apart a massive chunk of the bridge that's been sitting on top of the Dali cargo ship since it collided with the bridge back in March. Crews will now refloat the ship and it will return to the Port of Baltimore. The collapse killed 6 construction workers. All right, so several major U.S. airlines are suing the Biden administration in an attempt to block a rule aimed at curbing what it calls junk fees. The new rule announced in April would require airlines to show all fees up front, including baggage and cancellation fees. But airlines are now pushing back, saying it would complicate the ticket buying process and confuse travelers. The airlines involved in the lawsuit include Alaska, American, Delta, Hawaiian, JetBlue, and United. The U.S. Transportation Department says it will defend the rule. Thousands of parents and child care providers are marking National Day Without Child Care. They recognize accessible child care for all families, as well as better pay for child care providers. Spectrum's Samana Sheikh is on the ground with a look at some of the protests in Ohio.
Care can't wait! Care can't wait! Care can't wait!
Across the country and here in Ohio, rallies like this one are taking place on National Day Without Child Care.
I can't afford that because housing went up. You gotta have like at least $2,000 just to get a decent place, an upstairs, downstairs with a basement.
Andrea Ellis is a single mom who joined parents and providers from across the state, hoping to get lawmakers to allocate more money toward the problem, with the eventual goal of bringing down costs for parents and raising salaries for the providers.
There's a massive difference between private child care and publicly funded child care, and we're trying to close that gap so everybody has access to affordable child care. And the sad thing about it is because of Black and brown centers that are...
Her provider in Dayton, she brought the young kids from her class with her to give people a first-hand view of the children impacted by the system.
We need families to be able to afford child care so they can go to work. That means no copays. That means we increasing the requirements for being able to afford child care. These are the things we're asking for today. We're asking for us to become like other states that are doing. Ohio is the lowest, one of the lowest states in Ohio that's behind these efforts.
According to Policy Matters, the number of child care workers in Ohio dropped by more than a third from 2017 to 2022. Meanwhile, the Children's Defense Fund says families of 4 in Ohio are only eligible for child care subsidies from the government if they make less than about $38,000 a year. It says that's one of the lowest eligibility levels in the country.
It's still not enough to finally take care of my kids and to make sure they had their needs.
Now passing by and really listen in on their chants regarding child care and affordable wages. For Spectrum News, I'm Samana Sheikh.
A Texas neighborhood has become the nesting ground for thousands of egrets and herons. How residents are dealing with the bird invasion. That's coming up on Spectrum News.
Here's the deal. In this election year, people need a place to explore national issues that have an impact on their community. To understand those issues better, we're bringing together our team of local political journalists from across the country to break down what's happening. So join us every week to catch up on the key stories making a big difference across the nation and in your local community.
Watch The Big Deal with Errol Lewis Friday nights at on Spectrum.
Okay, Dad. 1, 2, 3. You saved me. Dad?
Are you okay?
I'm fine, dear. YourHere.org/caregiving.
I don't remember how it started.
Talk to Dad.
Our back and forth. always came back.
Dad!
You probably don't remember what you told me,
That was perfect.
but I heard every word.
We will be keeping a close eye on the southeast for Tuesday. Hi there, I'm meteorologist Robert Santos. That's where we are expecting a threat for some severe storms. Along with that, the chance for some excessive rainfall leading to some flash flooding also across not only the west, but even the south. So let's take a look at that. Your travel forecast here for Tuesday. Portland, 77 degrees, so running above average, even for Seattle, running above average there. Denver, we've got showers in the forecast with mid-70s, low 70s in Louisville, but you've got rain for your Tuesday. Not only rain, but thunderstorm chances as well, and rain over Cleveland with low 70s. New York, you stay dry for now with temperatures there in the mid-70s. So warmer than average, and it's been this way since last week up in the Pacific Northwest, so 5 to 9 degrees above average there. In the meantime, Southern California has been below average, but the Southwest you could see there, Las Vegas and Phoenix, all above average. In the meantime, cooler than average across Columbus, St. Louis, and Charlotte, where those temperatures will be in the upper 60s to some low to mid 70s there as storms come through, and then upper 70s in Boston right now for your Tuesday's forecast. Then average temperatures, no jacket needed for Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. That's where we'll be in the mid 70s to even some low 80s. It's not until Friday that we get closer to average again and stay that way for the weekend. Looking nice. Dallas, Texas, warmer than average, low 90s there for you on Wednesday, and then cooler for Thursday. That'll be your coolest day over the next 7, and then warming back up into the 90s as we dive into the weekend. Charlotte, North Carolina, 79 is your average. Below that by about 10 degrees for your Tuesday because of the storms that will be moving across, and then low 80s Wednesday, Thursday, little dip Friday, and then back up into the 80s for the weekend into the next week. Now in Los Angeles, we have the marine layer cloud cover there that's delaying the heating, so temperatures will be below average all week long. They're going to be mild, but yeah, we've got the morning clouds and afternoon sunshine for residents there. Now, May 20th to 26th, here's the Climate Prediction Center's temperature outlook. About a 30 to 40% for Southern California and basically a big portion of the west. Now, down south, there's about a 70 to 90% chance here that temperatures will end up being above average. So just count on it continuing to be warm as we round out the last several days of May.
All right, so imagine waking up to find your neighborhood transformed into a nesting ground for thousands of birds. Well, it's a reality for some people in Texas where egrets and herons have taken over. Spectrum's Emily Pounds shows the impact locals are facing and the measures being taken to address this unexpected wildlife invasion.
There's like 13 nests in that tree there, another in that tree.
The skies above Tarrant County are filled with the sounds of cattle egrets and owners with ruffled feathers.
I've been here 31 years. We've never, ever had such an issue. So, and the bird droppings are so thick, you can smell it.
Longtime resident Lisa Bodley says it's gotten to the point where she's getting creative.
Yes, there we go. And then my rubber galoshes, and then I do my washing of my sidewalk, and I go as far as I can into the street, and I've done this every day for like a week.
With more than 350 birds nestled together along her street, she's fed up. Sharing frustration, her neighbor Cindy Lawton says her once serene backyard is now filled with balloons to help battle against what they call an invasion.
We bought a power washer to try because, you know, I have 11 grandchildren and they spend the summers over here and I don't want them in my front yard.
The once rare egret. During the late 1800s, millions of birds, including egrets, were killed annually to create women's hats, spearheading laws to reduce the slaughtering. Fort Worth Animal Care and Control Superintendent Christopher Lorette says the birds nested so quickly in a span of just 3 days. There's not much the city can do.
Making sure that their trees have no twigs and no limbs, the small limbs that you don't really see all the time. Making sure that you keep your your yard clear of debris.
If nests are disturbed, it can cost up to a $50,000 fine. Residents may have to wait until October for the eager birds to migrate, according to the Fort Worth Animal Control, although bird experts anticipate they'll fly the coop by July. As the neighbor in Fort Worth, Emily Pounds, Spectrum News.
I'm Sharon Tazwell. Thanks for watching. Your Spectrum News in 90 is coming up right after this short break. Stay with us.
At Spectrum News, we're committed to strengthening the fabric of local communities through our reporting, with stories that inspire and news that matters. Streaming live on your smart TV and connected devices. It's all there as you step outside with the Spectrum News mobile app, keeping you informed and in the know throughout your day. Spectrum News Plus, local stories, connecting communities. Exclusively for Spectrum customers. Now available on your favorite devices.
At Spectrum, our workforce of over 100,000 employees are all located right here in the U.S. You can find them in our stores, in the field, and in our call centers with 100% U.S.-based customer service. Our team works hard to provide the towns, cities, and neighborhoods they live in with the reliable services that everyone counts on, making us one of America's most trusted companies. We're Spectrum, creating jobs and opportunities across the country, and proud to be 100% U.S.-based.
Today I'm going to talk to you about physics. Come on in, girls. Let's go. This is the first rocket to get humans to Mars. Structural engineer designing and building parts of the rocket. You are the generation that will be stepping foot on Mars. Do I have a group of astronauts on my hands? Yes. You can become a rocket scientist or whatever else you want to be.
That's why I'm never gonna let you go. Never gonna let you go. Babe, I'm never gonna let you go. No, no, never gonna let you go.
Here you go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Never gonna let you go.